Time to see what's been going on down here with the Phantom Beaver. It's been about a week since I was here last. The good news is, water's at least 10 inches lower than when I left. So I don't know. Now we need to go over and see if that's because I may be one part of this battle, or is it because it hasn't rained and the water's just dropping. So we'll take a little short walk over to the Beaver project, the Beaver Deceiver, and see what our Phantom Beaver has been able to do in the last week. Problems are that I hope didn't happen, and he could have found a way to get underneath the wire and plug them. He could have plugged them up on the downside where they flow out. It doesn't seem like most people have trouble with that too much unless they build a dam down there, and I don't expect this beaver to do it. So we'll go check out the source. Finally, Martin wins this round. We got water flowing out of that tube, out of this tube up there, 2 smaller ones, 5 tubes. They're all flowing after a week. Level dropped down to a really nice level. We can probably get across our other lane over there. Farmer's not flooded out. Plenty of wildlife habitat, and even a little bit of water for the animals downstream from here. Oh, it's nice to be a winner for a change, I can tell you that. I was starting to get to me wondering if it's just going to be a weekly battle where I had to wade in there and dig things out every week. But maybe we're both happy. Well, I doubt it. Beaver's never going to be happy if he can't stop everything, but we're good for now. When I was here a week ago, I extended the tubing out into the further away from his dam, about 12 or 13 feet out to there. I put the woven wire fencing around it to keep him from coming in, and I see no evidence that he's tried to pile anything against that at all. I did leave him a little bit of work to do here where I had buried the tubes across his dam, and as I figured, he came in and he sealed that up very nicely. Oh, nice to see we're finally coming to compromise. I do notice though that in this beaver's attempt to stop that trickle of water he keeps hearing water running. So what he's done is he keeps adding to the breadth of this dam. Now we're just talking a little stream here, but he's gotten to where now he's packed so much mud that this dam is over 10 feet wide. When we first started working on this thing, it was maybe a 1 meter obstruction, but I think that as he keeps moving things out, it's going to take quite a while, but he could end up building mud all the way back and getting into my cages, but I hope he gives up before then. I know I would. Job's done. He's got a good dam. He's got enough water to hide his house. Let's just let it go, buddy. I don't have my high boots on, but I think ideally I want the water at least 3 inches lower, so we're getting there. We'll let that be for now. I just want to be able to walk across here with a regular pair of boots and be able to drive a vehicle across, because this crossing is a stone crossing and it's a shortcut to get all this property down here. And it may look like an iffy thing, but I remember years ago when I was working for a farmer who was farming this land, bring a big 4-wheel drive tractor through this. And now even if I have somebody with me and I'm bringing the vehicle through, they're like, oh, stop, don't do that, oh, because it looks so scary. But there's a really good stone base crossing this marsh. It's been there for a long time. So, as I came down here just now though, talk about this project for the wildlife. As I came down through, the first thing I flushed was a black-billed cuckoo, and that's not a joke. There are cuckoos here. This is a black-billed cuckoo. It's on the river bottoms. 2 sandhill cranes flew off. A few great blue herons. There was a crested flycatcher, and then there was duck family out there with ducklings swimming around. I didn't get a chance to see what it was, but that was the idea. Plenty of water, plenty of wildlife. We win. Hey buddy, how we doing? And this series has progressed of Martin versus the Phantom Beaver. I've had suggestions for blow the dam up with dynamite, shoot the beaver, trap the beaver, leave the beaver alone. And so maybe I can explain what I want to do is I want to get along with that beaver and I want to have him there holding that water back and maintaining that dam, but I want to do it at the level that I want, not as the beaver wants to go higher and higher and higher. One of the reasons I want to maintain that water level is so this doesn't happen. This slough right here would look just the same if we had a beaver at the other end. And so I've stopped by my weekly check just to show you what would happen over there if I wasn't harassing that beaver, so, or if I had killed that beaver. So the beaver's our friend. Many of you say baloney. Well, in the right circumstance, the beaver can be your friend. They provide so much wildlife habitat if you can keep them from destroying too much habitat while they're at it. We're looking for a balance. Since the beaver's giving me the day off, I don't have to rework all his stuff. Got a chance to come over here and get a little work done in the shack. Got quite a bit of work to do. This morning my wife called after she left the house and said, hey, the neighbor's got a lawnmower out there. Well, she knows I'm a sucker for any lawnmower, so I went up and picked it up and didn't want to run, but it had been sitting for a few years. I could tell that by the way the fuel was gummed up. So I took the bowl off, took a few minutes, got it running, so now I'll have an extra lawnmower to leave down here at the shack so I can keep this trimmed up a little better if I happen to stop by. That'll work well. And then later I got a real project. Maybe I'll get started today, but when the man built this cabin, he was so worried about mice getting in that he tinned the whole bottom of the cabin so they couldn't come in, and he put insulation on top of that tin. Well, when the water came up to the floorboards last year, well, it's been over a year and I checked in there and that insulation is still sopping wet, so I got to get that tin off the bottom to air and dry things out before the whole floor rots out. So it was a good plan, but it kind of backfired. Again, we'll make it work, but for now, get this mower fired up. It's not a real big mower, but I'll be able to get quite a bit of this done with it, so get to work. One advantage of these really hot days, coffee never gets cold. I've had this sitting out in the Durango a couple hours, still pretty good. Got one tank of gas. Well, actually I kept waiting for the mower to run out. It didn't. I finally gave up. This particular slough we're looking at, it's kind of doomed, and there's no way a beaver can do very much with it, and there's no springs coming into it either. So as the things dry up and the water table drops, it was going to dry up whether a beaver had a dam at the outlet or not. There was a year ago a video, remember, I had a family of otters out there eating frogs and ospreys flying around, but it just shows how it's habitat for something, but not near as much as it used to be. When I mowed last year, there were 2 or 3 milkweeds growing there, and I mowed around them because it's good for the butterflies, and now I see the seeds have dropped and getting me a pretty good little patch there. So we'll see what happens next year if we can do the same thing. They'll get mowed down later, but that's after they produced all their seeds and they can fall to the ground. Maybe we'll have a really good patch. I almost forgot about our little project of trying to get some of this tin off the bottom of this cabin so that it can air out in there and get some of that moisture out. Now this might seem kind of strange. A few minutes ago I'm talking about going down the road and being so happy I picked up a junk lawnmower and got it going. Then I sit here and I've got a tote with Milwaukee tools in it. Well, you know, the easy explanation of that is you bought this for me. All my little funds and we get quite a few of them off YouTube, and they go into a special fund. And you know, if there's a need someplace, or if I need something that I normally wouldn't maybe spring money for. I've never had tools like this before, but I'm talking about building that new cabin up at the Minnesota cabin. That's on the other Martin's Cabin channel, and I think it could be handy for driving some of the things to have some good tools up there. So I've started to pick up a few of those Milwaukee tools, or I should say you have decided to pick these up for me. So thank you. Now I just have to remember just how these things work, but while I'm here I wanted to maybe run some of these screws out and get a panel down to get some air flowing in there. So we'll see how this works. Eight down, 2,000 to go. Well, thanks to these nice Milwaukee tools, this job's going pretty fast. Maybe there's really only 1,150 screws, not 2,000 too. Well, I gotta give him credit. At least when he started, he had it mouse-proof. They still end up getting in, but this waterproof bit on the floor, that's that, this whole building would have rotted away if I hadn't noticed that. But I got it all down today. It's all down. I'm going to air out now, so I can come back later. The date today, I think, is about June 16th. A lot of people have been wondering from my other YouTube channel, which is called The North Woodsman 1. But the best way to get there is just, when you're on YouTube, just put in Martin's Cabin, and that'll get you there. Now this channel that we've called Bonnie's Kitchen, Martin's Shack, that's all about our life here in Illinois, and this thing down here that I call the shack. Well, this spring Bonnie had she had an issue with vertigo about the time I was going to head up for my spring trip. She got over the vertigo okay, but the antibiotics they gave her for the root cause just tore her up. So I never did end up getting out of here, and then the heat got too high up north, so I stayed in Illinois and I missed my spring trip. But the bonus of that is that before Vonnie had the vertigo and I was ready to take off, so I had a whole big freezer supply of Vonnie's world famous cherry pies. So now as I'm messing around down here fighting my Phantom Beaver and things like that, boy do I have a supply of pies, because cabin partner Jim isn't tapping into them or anything. I've got them all to myself, so things aren't all bad. I think I'm gonna have my pie and then we'll go out and see if we can find a little scene to conclude this video this week. Yeah, things are rough all over.